Donald Trump's unexpected election win shocked everyone, sparking intense reactions from world leaders and everyday citizens alike. One of the swiftest and most surprising responses is from the British royal family. Following the election news, King Charles reportedly called an immediate closed-door meeting, an unusual move that caught many by surprise. What did the king find so pressing to call such a meeting? And how might this reshape the future of UK-US relations? Let's dive into the details of what was discussed at King Charles's emergency meeting. Donald John Trump has made a significant comeback by winning the recent United States presidential election, held on Tuesday, November 6th. This victory is especially historic because it was one of the closest races in the country's history. Trump, who previously served as the 46th president, ran as the Republican candidate and managed to win against Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate. With this victory, he will become the 47th president of the United States. Trump's first term as president began in 2006 when he defeated Hillary Clinton, a former U.S. Secretary of State, in a major upset. His presidency from 2017 to 2021 was marked by strong support from his base, as well as significant controversies and a deeply divided political climate. In 2020, Trump sought re-election but lost to Joe Biden in a highly contested and tense election. Biden's victory marked the end of Trump's first term, and he left office after a single term. The 2020 election was unusual for several reasons, as Trump and many of his supporters challenged the results. Trump claimed that the election was stolen from him due to alleged widespread voter fraud, though these claims were heavily disputed and not proven in court. His refusal to accept the outcome led to months of disputes, investigations, and political tension across the country. This period became particularly notable for the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 by Trump's supporters, which raised serious concerns about the stability of American democracy. Trump's actions during and after the election loss were examined closely, with investigations into whether he tried to overturn the election results to remain in office. His return to the White House in 2024 is now viewed as a remarkable political comeback, considering the challenges he faced both in public perception and legal scrutiny. This new presidency marks a highly anticipated chapter, as his leadership style, policies, and vision for the future will again shape the course of the nation. Many are watching closely to see how Trump will address both old and new issues, and whether his approach will be different from his first term in office. Trump's supporters see his victory as a chance to continue the work he started during his previous presidency. They believe he brings strength and a focus on America First policies. On the other hand, his critics are cautious, concerned about how his leadership might impact the nation's unity and its relationships on the world stage. America First approach. Donald Trump's presidency had a significant impact on international relations, and his unique approach to diplomacy has left many countries, especially long-standing allies, like the United Kingdom, both cautious and curious about what his leadership means for their future. Trump's approach to international relations has often been described as America First. This means he believes that the United States should focus on its own needs and interests before worrying about the rest of the world. Unlike some previous presidents who emphasized cooperation and working closely with allies, Trump often focused on making sure America got the best deal. In his view, the United States was often being taken advantage of by other countries, and he aimed to change that. For allies like the UK, this focus on America's individual interests has created some concern. The UK and the United States have traditionally been very close partners, with a special relationship based on mutual trust and shared values. Over the years, the two countries have worked together on issues like security, trade, and global stability, but Trump's America First stance raised questions about whether the U.S. would still be a reliable friend and partner. During Trump's first term, he made several decisions that surprised and sometimes upset America's allies. For example, he pulled the United States out of important international agreements, like the Paris Climate Agreement, which was aimed at fighting climate change. This was a concern for countries around the world, including the UK, which views climate change as a serious issue, and was disappointed to see the U.S. step back from global efforts. Trump also withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, which was meant to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. The UK, along with other European allies, believed the deal was an important step toward peace in the Middle East. So Trump's decision caused friction with those nations. Trump's strong views on trade also caused tension. He imposed tariffs on goods from other countries, including allies, arguing that these measures were necessary to protect American industries and workers. But these tariffs often led to trade disputes with close allies. The UK, which relies heavily on trade with the United States, faced uncertainty about how these policies might affect its economy. For example, British businesses worried that Trump's tariffs on certain goods could make it more expensive to export their products to the US, potentially hurting profits and jobs in the UK. Trump also took a unique approach to dealing with leaders of other powerful countries, particularly Russia and North Korea. He was known for trying to build personal relationships with leaders like Vladimir Putin of Russia and Kim Jong-un of North Korea, which sometimes puzzled and worried US allies. While some believed these efforts were an attempt to ease tensions, others feared that Trump's friendly stance might send the wrong message, especially given concerns about human rights and security threats from these countries. For the UK, Trump's return to the White House could mean more uncertainty. The UK is facing major changes, including its departure from the European Union, commonly known as Brexit, as it seeks to redefine its role on the world stage. The UK needs strong, stable allies. Trump's America First approach could make it harder for the UK to rely on the US in the same way it has in the past. British leaders might worry about whether the United States will prioritize its own goals over working together on shared concerns, such as security threats, climate change, and economic cooperation. In terms of trade, the UK might face both risks and opportunities. Trump has expressed interest in negotiating a new trade deal with the UK, which could help the British economy after Brexit. However, if Trump's main goal is to benefit American businesses, he might push for terms that could be less favorable to the UK. British leaders may have to carefully balance their desire for a trade deal with protecting their own economy and standards. Additionally, Trump's approach to international organizations like NATO could raise concerns for the UK. NATO, a military alliance between the US, the UK, and other European countries, has been a key part of protecting Europe's security. Trump has been critical of NATO, arguing that the US carries too much of the financial burden. While he hasn't pulled the US out of NATO, his criticism has led some to wonder if he fully supports the alliance. For the UK, which relies on NATO as part of its defense strategy, any weakening of the alliance could be worrisome. US foreign policy. During Donald Trump's presidency from 2000, d'except 2021, Trump's views were often described as nationalist, and some saw them as isolationist or non-interventionist. Isolationism is a policy of avoiding involvement in international conflicts or affairs, and many believed Trump followed this approach, especially given his reluctance to engage in military actions abroad. He preferred to focus on U.S. issues rather than foreign conflicts, pulling back from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accords and the Iran nuclear deal. However, Trump himself disagreed with the isolationist label and argued that his policies were not about staying out of world affairs, but rather about ensuring that the U.S. benefited more from those interactions. Some critics argued that Trump's actions and policies, such as pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, and cutting back on U.S. involvement in the United Nations, reflected a form of semi-isolationism. While not fully retreating from global affairs, Trump's policies often focused on reducing U.S. commitments to multilateral organizations and agreements. Throughout his presidency, Trump was known to praise some leaders who embraced populism, nationalism, or even authoritarianism. He expressed admiration for leaders like Russia's Vladimir Putin, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, and Hungary's Viktor Orban, who shared some of his views on nationalism and governance. At the same time, Trump often antagonized traditional allies, especially in Europe, and questioned long-standing partnerships like those with NATO members. He also criticized democratic ideals at times, focusing more on strengthening ties with countries that shared his political and economic views. Despite these views, diplomats from Trump's administration continued to publicly support pro-democracy ideals, which created a contrast between his personal preferences and the official stance of the U.S. government. In practice, Trump's foreign policy often relied on personal relationships with world leaders, and his decisions sometimes seemed to go against traditional U.S. foreign policy values. His presidency led to a re-evaluation of how the U.S. interacts with the world, and whether previous policies, alliances, and agreements were still in the best interest of the country. When Donald Trump took office in January 2017, he brought a very different approach to foreign policy than previous presidents. One of the key changes was his reliance on military personnel and White House advisors instead of the traditional diplomats at the State Department. In fact, Trump used more military leaders in his administration than any president since Ronald Reagan. This approach was part of Trump's style, which emphasized strong, direct leadership, and he often preferred to make decisions with a small, close-knit group of trusted advisors rather than through established government channels. A major example of this was Trump's choice to give significant roles in foreign policy to his personal advisors. For instance, he handed the responsibility for handling the Middle East peace process to his senior advisor, Jared Kushner, who had no formal experience in diplomacy. This move highlighted Trump's belief in using people he trusted, even if they didn't have traditional political or diplomatic backgrounds, to work on major global issues. Kushner, who was also Trump's son-in-law, took on a large and challenging task, which reflected Trump's approach of relying on family and close friends for important positions. Trump's choice for Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, was also unconventional. Tillerson was the former CEO of ExxonMobil, a large oil company, and he was chosen mainly for his extensive experience in dealing with foreign countries, particularly Russia. Trump valued Tillerson's global contacts and his business background, hoping that these qualities would help improve international relations. However, Tillerson's time as Secretary of State was marked by challenges, including budget cuts at the State Department and Trump's preference for listening to his White House advisors instead of career diplomats. This led to reports that the State Department was sidelined during Tillerson's tenure, meaning it had less influence and involvement in major decisions about international relations. In 2018, Tillerson was replaced by Mike Pompeo, who had been the director of the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, before becoming Secretary of State. Pompeo was seen as more in line with Trump's direct, no-nonsense approach to diplomacy. His background in intelligence and national security made him a more familiar choice for Trump, and Pompeo's tenure as Secretary of State reflected the president's continued reliance on trusted figures from outside traditional diplomacy circles. King Charles' emergency meeting upon hearing the news of Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential election. It was reported that King Charles felt a mix of surprise, concern, and the immediate need to prepare. It was speculated that King Charles quickly gathered senior royals, top advisors, and perhaps even a few key members of the British government to discuss how to approach this new chapter in U.S.-UK relations. Among those possibly present at the meeting were Prince William and Princess Catherine, who are highly regarded and represent the future of the monarchy. Other close advisors and diplomats specializing in U.S.-UK relations were there, along with officials from the British Foreign Office, which oversees international affairs, the Prime Minister, or at least a high-ranking representative from the Prime Minister's office, might also have been consulted, given the close relationship between the monarchy and the government on matters of foreign policy. With Trump in office again, King Charles felt it necessary to consider new protocols or guidelines for interacting with the U.S. under his leadership. Trump's style is notably different from that of many other world leaders. He's known for his direct, sometimes unpredictable approach, and this could require adjustments to traditional diplomatic practices. King Charles and his advisors discussed strategies for handling official meetings, public appearances, and other forms of interaction with Trump to ensure that both parties feel respected and that any cultural differences are handled with care. Another topic that might have come up is the potential impact of Trump's policies on the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth includes many countries that have a close bond with the UK, some of which have economic and political ties with the United States as well. King Charles has long been committed to the Commonwealth, and he could have expressed concern about how Trump's policies, particularly his focus on American interests, might affect trade, travel, or political relationships between Commonwealth nations and the U.S. The group might have discussed the need for the UK to advocate for Commonwealth nations or offer reassurance to these countries about their partnership with Britain. Beyond the practical matters of international relations, King Charles had personal concerns about how the royal family would be perceived amid these changes in global politics. One of his ongoing responsibilities is to maintain the image of the monarchy as a stable and neutral institution. With Trump back in office, a figure who often stirs up strong opinions worldwide, King Charles might have worried about how the royal family's interactions with him could influence public opinion. For example, showing too much friendliness with Trump could be seen as favoring his policies, while appearing too distant might risk offending him or his supporters. Balancing neutrality while respecting his personal beliefs could prove challenging, especially if Trump's policies differ sharply from King Charles' own values, particularly on issues like climate change and environmental protection. Another aspect that may have been a point of discussion is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's presence in the United States. Since moving to California, they have become highly visible public figures in the U.S., speaking on social issues and forging relationships with influential Americans. King Charles recognized that Trump's leadership could impact their lives and, perhaps even the royal family's broader relationship with the American public. He expressed concern about how to carefully navigate the connection between the monarchy and Harry and Meghan, especially since the couple has voiced opinions that don't always align with Trump's views. King Charles felt that it's important for the royal family to be cautious in handling this connection, as Harry and Meghan's American presence adds a unique dimension to the U.S. relationship, Trump and the British royal family. The relationship between the British royals, particularly King Charles III and Prince William, and Donald Trump has not always been smooth. Over the years, there have been tense moments, mainly due to some controversial public statements Trump has made about members of the royal family. The history between Trump and the British royal family goes back many years and includes a few controversial episodes. For example, Trump once made remarks about Princess Diana that were widely seen as inappropriate and insensitive, which did not sit well with the British public or the royal family. Years later, in Deux Mille Douze, Donald Trump made some controversial comments about Princess Kate, also known as Kate Middleton, after she was photographed sunbathing topless. This incident happened while Kate was on vacation in the private grounds of a French chateau. A paparazzi photographer using a long camera lens took these photos without her permission. The photos quickly spread, and many people, especially in the UK, were upset that Kate's privacy had been invaded. However, Trump had a different view on the situation. He posted on social media, on a platform that was then called Twitter, now known as X. He wrote that he thought Princess Kate had only herself to blame for being photographed this way. Trump continued to express his opinion, saying, "Kate Middleton is great, but she shouldn't be sunbathing in the nude, only herself to blame." He suggested that Kate should have known better than to sunbathe topless, because there would always be photographers eager to take her picture, especially since she was so famous. Trump went on to say that anyone in the paparazzi's position would likely do the same, as photos of someone as popular as Princess Kate could be sold for a lot of money. He even added, "Who wouldn't take Kate's picture and make lots of money if she does the nude sunbathing thing? Come on, Kate!" His comments made it seem as though he blamed Kate, rather than the photographer, which many people found insensitive. These remarks were seen by many as disrespectful to Kate and the royal family. People felt that, as a public figure, Trump should have been more understanding of her right to privacy. Kate and the royal family were upset by the invasion of privacy, and many people sympathized with her. Trump's comments on this issue caused a lot of controversy, and some people felt they showed a lack of respect for the privacy and dignity of others, especially for someone in the public eye like Princess Kate. These remarks also contributed to the tension between Trump and the British royal family, as they showed a different attitude towards privacy and respect than what the royal family expects. However, Eric Trump, the son of Donald Trump, recently shared his thoughts on the British monarchy in an interview with the Daily Mail. He spoke with great respect for the royal family, saying that his father, Donald Trump, and the entire Trump family have tremendous respect for the monarchy. According to Eric, one of the most beautiful things about the United Kingdom is its monarchy and what it represents. He described the monarchy as gorgeous and praised the royal family for the important role they play in the country. Eric Trump also pointed out that the monarchy is deeply admired in the United States. "I can tell you that our father and our entire family has tremendous respect for the monarchy." He noted that whenever there is a royal event, such as a wedding or even a funeral, it is covered on every news station in the U.S. The American public is very interested in the royals, and these events capture a lot of attention. Eric said that his family has known King Charles for a long time, which shows the close connections between the Trump family and the British royal family. He even shared a personal memory that highlights the connection between his father and King Charles. Eric recalled finding a photo in a family album that shows his father, Donald Trump, with King Charles when Eric was just 6 years old. The photo was taken in the lobby of Mar-a-Lago, the Trump family's private club in Florida. Eric described the memory as special, showing how the Trump family has had a long history of relationships with the royal family. This statement from Eric Trump reveals that despite the political differences between his father, Donald Trump, and the British monarchy, there is a personal connection and respect between the two families. The royal family's influence extends far beyond the United Kingdom, with many people around the world, including in the U.S., admiring their traditions and the role they play in representing their countries. The King View of Trump. In his book, The King, The Life of Charles, Christopher Anderson gives a look at how King Charles felt about Donald Trump's comments on Princess Kate and other matters. According to the book, Trump's remarks about Kate caused a very strong reaction from Charles and his sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. When Trump had suggested that Kate was to blame for being photographed while sunbathing, this upset the royal family. A former butler from Clarence House, which is Charles's residence, mentioned that both Charles and his sons reacted with torrents of profanity, meaning they were very angry and used strong language. The book explains that Charles didn't stop there. He wanted to know more about Trump and what was happening with him in America. Charles was cautious, however, because some of his friends and people who donated money to his charities were actually supporters of Trump. So, while Charles wanted to ask questions, he had to be careful not to offend anyone who might support the former president. He would talk to his American friends, especially those who were wealthy or influential, but he did so gently, trying not to push them too hard for information. Even with this careful approach, Charles was still able to get some information. Anderson writes that Charles would ask about how likely it was that Trump might be impeached, which is when a president could be removed from office if found guilty of serious misconduct. He was curious and seemed hopeful that Trump might not stay in office for long. Charles also seemed to have a very low opinion of Trump, saying things like, "Trump seems to be detached from reality, doesn't he?" He asked this question to a former Washington official, who was now running a large U.S. company. Charles even referred to Trump as a ghastly, awful man, which shows just how strongly he felt about him. In this way, the book reveals that King Charles had serious concerns about Trump's personality and behavior. The royal family values dignity, respect, and privacy, and Trump's comments and actions seem to clash with these values. This situation created some distance between Trump and Charles's behind-the-scenes questions, show that he was worried about Trump's impact on both his family and possibly even on the world stage. King Charles has long been a strong supporter of taking action on climate change. He has consistently spoken out about the need to protect the environment and reduce the harmful effects of pollution. Charles has worked to promote policies that aim to reduce carbon emissions and encourage cleaner energy. His efforts have included organizing events, speaking at international forums, and pushing for businesses and governments to invest in sustainable practices. He has always emphasized the importance of tackling climate change before it becomes an even bigger problem. On the other hand, Donald Trump's views on climate change have been very different. During his time as president, Trump was known for supporting policies that favored fossil fuel production, like oil, coal, and natural gas, which contribute to pollution and global warming. His stance on climate change and his support for fossil fuels were seen as a step backward by many environmentalists, especially in contrast to King Charles' long-standing commitment to addressing the climate crisis. Aside from his views on climate change, Charles also had strong opinions on immigration and asylum policies. He opposed the British government's decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing, a plan that was widely criticized for being harsh and inhumane. Charles believed that refugees and asylum seekers should be treated with dignity and respect, and he felt that the UK should offer them better opportunities for a fresh start. In response to these concerns, Charles set up the Prince's Trust, which became one of his most successful initiatives. The Prince's Trust focuses on helping young people in the UK's inner cities, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. It provides training, mentorship, and financial support to help them find employment or start their own businesses. This program has had a significant impact on many lives, helping thousands of young people turn their lives around. Trump, in contrast, made headlines during his campaign for remarks that many found deeply offensive. One of his most widely criticized comments was when he suggested that Haitians were eating the dogs in Springfield, Ohio. This statement was seen as both disrespectful and insulting to Haitians and other communities, adding to the growing concerns about Trump's inflammatory language and attitude towards immigrants and marginalized groups. His comments often stirred controversy and were a part of his broader political style, which many viewed as divisive and harmful. While Charles focused on promoting positive social change and environmental action, Trump's policies and public statements were often seen as harmful or dismissive of vulnerable communities. Charles' work with the Prince's Trust and his environmental advocacy reflected his concern for making the world a better place, while Trump's actions and words were often criticized for being out of touch with the needs of the most vulnerable people in society. The differences in their approaches to important issues like climate change, immigration, and social welfare show the stark contrast between King Charles' values and those of Donald Trump. The future plan yet. Despite these past tensions, Trump's respect for the monarchy remains strong. He has often spoken highly of the institution, seeing it as a symbol of tradition and stability. Trump admires the monarchy's ability to represent a long history and heritage, something that resonates with his love for the grandeur and prestige that come with it. This appreciation for the monarchy as an institution might be one of the simpler aspects of the relationship between Trump and the British royals, as it provides common ground on which both sides can focus. With Trump back in office, there is a good chance he will plan a state visit to the UK. A state visit is a formal visit by a head of state and is one of the highest honors the British government can offer. It includes ceremonies, a grand welcome, and often a banquet hosted by the monarch. For Trump, this would be an opportunity to show his respect for the monarchy and for the UK. It would be a chance to strengthen ties with one of its most important allies, the United States. As part of this renewed relationship, the British government might turn to the royal family to engage in what is often called soft power diplomacy. This means using the royal family's popularity, charm, and status to promote positive relations and goodwill without direct political negotiations. Charles, William, and other senior royals have played this role many times before, as their presence at events or meetings with foreign leaders helps create a friendly atmosphere and reinforces the UK's ties with other countries. Their ability to connect with people from different cultures and backgrounds makes them excellent ambassadors for the UK. King Charles, as the head of the monarchy, would likely play a leading role in any efforts to build a strong working relationship with Trump. Despite past tensions, Charles may see this as an opportunity to show the strength and stability of the British monarchy. Additionally, Prince William, who represents the future of the royal family, could be included in these efforts. William, who is popular both in the UK and abroad, brings a fresh energy to the monarchy, and his presence alongside his father could symbolize unity and continuity within the royal family. The royals might also prepare to handle any challenges that could arise from Trump's personality and outspoken style. Trump's direct and sometimes blunt way of speaking is different from the traditional, reserved approach often preferred by the British royals. This means they may need to carefully plan how to engage with Trump, while ensuring that all interactions remain respectful and dignified. The royal family is known for its professionalism and has often dealt with complex or difficult situations in a composed manner, so they would likely rely on their experience to manage any potential challenges. As he returns to the White House, Trump faces many expectations, challenges, and pressures. Whether he will build on his previous policies or adjust his approach remains to be seen, but his presidency will undoubtedly have a lasting impact on American politics and the world. But across the Atlantic, a royal twist of its own is making waves. In an unexpected shakeup of tradition and titles, Princess Anne takes the throne, and Queen Camilla loses her title. What could possibly lead to such a shocking turn of events within the British monarchy? Click on the video appearing on your screen right now to discover the dramatic story behind this royal revelation. Don't miss out. This is one story that will leave you speechless. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.